a very important question in Bhakti Yoga. When you start or try to develop this love, to develop this surrender, this devotion, is whether you do it towards a image of God with form, or whether you do it towards a more formless, abstract concept of God. And of course, modern intellectual people as we are, have a natural tendency to say, yes, better keep it abstract. Because in a sense, it is abstract. Reality is abstract. We cannot say God is a man or a woman. We cannot say God has a long beard, or God is very young, or God is having an elephant head like you have Ganesha in Hinduism. The essence of God is formless. But still, there are good reasons to have a certain form of God, to work with, to develop this love with. And of course, as I said, at some point, God is this and that and that and that and that. You find it in everything. So now, why not take one of those things, one of those forms, one which you particularly like, and use that as, you could say, a symbol of God, an image of God on which you can focus and where you can develop this bhakti, this love, this devotion. In Islam, for example, it is forbidden to create any image of God. But what do you see there? Then people have devotional practices towards saints. Most important practices in Islam are practices towards saints. Or towards Mecca. No? It's, every day, once or twice, I don't know, no? They make their bow, no? To Mecca, the holy place where there is also a holy shrine and so on. So, people really need something concrete to work with. That is our limitation, which somehow also needs to be accepted. And then, if I may talk about Christianity, I think in Christianity there is an image of God as a man with a beard, but this image you don't see a lot. There's not many churches where you will actually see this image. I think, because also in Christianity they understand that this is not really the true image. No? So they want to be a little bit careful with that. And what image is then used in Christianity is the image of the Christ. And of various saints, angels, agents of God, you could say. And there we can have the devotion. Maria, also very important for developing this devotion. So some form is needed, and if we then look at Buddhism, for example, Buddhists actually deny the existence of any super God, but of course they replaced it with a superhuman, with the Buddha. And the Buddha clearly not being just one person, not one historical Sakyamuni Buddha, but a endless divine being that had many forms, many incarnations. You have many types of Buddhas. I don't know if that's something you people are aware of, but just take it from me. There are many, many different kinds of Buddhas worshipped in Buddhism, and there's even female Buddhas worshipped in Buddhism who are then called Taras. So also there you find, even though they deny the existence of God, they will still have worship towards the divine in the form of the Buddha. And then if we go have a look at Hinduism, Hinduism has a totally different approach, a approach which is relatively old, and before you could say the coming of monotheism, which started somewhere with Abraham, mostly but also some other elements, Zoroaster. Also, even in Egypt, there was a tendency towards that at that time. But before that, most cultures had what we now know as polytheism. They had many, many gods, and I think India is really a champion there because they are supposed to have 330 million gods, which of course never have been really counted, but this is an estimate. You have around 1 billion Indians, and they have 330 million gods. Huh? So to them, all these are manifestations of the formless divine being. And really, if you go in India and you start talking to people, and you ask them, okay, which is your favorite god? They will say, oh, it's Shiva, or it's Durga, or it's Kali, or it's Vishnu, Krishna, Ganesha. You get, a lot of them, and some are clearly more popular than others. But, you get this multitude. But if then you ask these same people, and they may be very simple people, they may be taxi drivers or hotel people or something like that, if you ask them to compare that particular god to the other gods, every one of them will say, oh, they are all the same. Only in this form I like God best. This is the form with which I can connect the most easy, which is like an ideal form of me, something that I want to become. I want to become like Shiva. I want to become like Hanuman. Things like that they will say. But at the same time, they are perfectly aware of the fact that God essentially is formless and includes all forms. And precisely because it includes all forms, can be worshipped in a tree, in a river. The river Ganges is also seen as a goddess, in a mountain, or in some kind of statue which is more human-like. For them, it's all the same. So this is another approach of the same problem of God being essentially formless, but we needing some kind of form to work with. Having this need for developing love, having this need. And all these different deities really can be seen as particular manifestations of the divine if you look at what they represent. Like you have a deity called Lakshmi, who represents generosity. She is usually shown throwing money to people. So, generosity is one of the manifestations of the divine. From the heart, from the essence, from the inner peace, desirelessness, love, comes generosity. It is one manifestation. Likewise, you have another Hanuman with the monkey head, who is courageous. Same thing. Once you really know the inner being, then to have courage is not a problem. Because you know nothing's changing anyway, you can do anything. Right? As long as you're attached to your illusionary you, to your ego, then courage is difficult. Because then courage depends upon the image that you have of yourself. Then you are thinking, will I be able to do this or not? If you are not dependent on that, if you are dependent on your inner being, then there is no doubt if you have to do it, you will do it. Even if it means you die, you will do it. So that particular aspect of the divine is manifested as this form of Hanuman. And I could go on like that 330 million times. I don't know all of them, but I know quite a few. And each one is a beautiful manifestation